Welcome to Latkes and Ketchup, the official podcast of Congregation Beth Israel in Charlottesville, Virginia. My name is Rabbi Ezra Leventhal, and today on as my guest, I am very happy to have Sandy Schustek. He is a longtime congregant of ours here at CBI. He has been a member for 42 years, and about half of which he's been on our ritual practice committee, which he's currently the chair of. Welcome to the podcast, Sandy.
Thank you, Rabbi Ezra. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, Lucas, for helping us.
Yeah, Lucas is a champ. Always glad to have him here in the background. So, Sandy, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast because I have known you to be a man of very strong opinions. Do you identify with this?
I would agree.
Yeah, the first time that we met, I remember this very vividly. You took me out to lunch on the downtown mall, and then we went for a walk on the downtown mall, and you gave me your opinions on like every single store we passed and whether or not it was worth going to and like a vague history of it.
Yes, I do have strong opinions.
Yes. And this includes your opinions on movies, which we talk about a lot, and sports, which you're going to talk to me about today. So with that, Sandy, did you bring the latke or the ketchup today?
Today, I brought the ketchup.
You brought the ketchup. This is very exciting. This is my first time bringing the latke, everyone. You know, I went to rabbinical school for 5 years. I might as well use my expertise in Judaism. So, Sandy, what did you bring us as ketchup today?
So I went to the School of Basketball.
Ooh.
And just as my background of bona fides, I've been going to basketball games ever since I can remember. I've played recreational basketball for almost 60 years.
Wow.
And I also started to go to Madison Square Garden as a teenager with a bunch of friends back in the 60s. And my favorite team was the Knicks. But I did play recreational basketball throughout my life. And I probably have been to almost every home game at UVA for the last 42 years.
Wow. That is impressive. That is quite a track record. Did you start following college basketball when you moved down here, or were you always following college ball?
Yeah, I was always a big fan of college ball, but more so once I came to Virginia.
Awesome. All right. So what about UVA basketball are you going to tell us today?
All right. So I'd like to first praise Tony Bennett, who is the long-time coach of 15 years, who resigned about a year ago. And we will talk about that at the end of the discussion. But I think Tony Bennett is an excellent college basketball coach. Very few people have achieved the level of success that he has achieved. He's won approximately 73% of his college basketball games, and there are 364 Division I college basketball teams, and only in the last 50 years, only 29 different people have won the NCAA men's college basketball championship. So he's in a very elite group. Very few people have won it more than once. And he achieved that milestone back in 2019. What was fantastic about Tony was that, and this is also part of his leadership style, was that he had a vision. He had a vision that he came to a good basketball town, a good basketball team that was perennially in the top 20, the legacy of Ralph Sampson and others before him. But he kind of knew that he had to do something different. That was counterintuitive to most of the styles that were played in Division I basketball at the higher levels. And so what he created was a style where he slowed the game down. Now, there is a shot clock. In the old days, 30, 40 years ago, you could hold the ball for an hour. But now it's 30 seconds in college. And what he figured out was that he could maximize every offensive possession and slow it down and take shots into the 20, 25-second range. And his efficiency was outstanding because he recruited very disciplined players who would work the ball around, get the defense tired, and then execute at a very high level. At one point, I think he was at 1.3 scoring level per possession, which is very high. The average college basketball team will have 70 to 80 possessions in a game. He would be in the 60 possession range. On the other side of the equation, he played a great defensive strategy where he had his players a very famous pack line defense, which essentially surrounded the perimeter of the three-point line and did not allow for penetration or for three-point shots. And he made players work very hard to get off good shots. That also slowed down the game. So what invariably happened was that you would see these games where the pace was very slow, very outstanding athletic players on the other teams would get frustrated. They would turn the ball over, they would make mental mistakes, they would get frustrated, and usually by about the 30-minute mark, the game would then turn to UVA style. The game is 40 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. So we've got some mad respect for Tony Bennett, some really good points in his corner, but you did come to me with one of your patented Sandy Schustek strong opinions here, and I think the people need to hear it.
Well, thank you. So when they say faint praise, I hope this isn't too faint. So Tony Bennett is very famous for losing very consequential games and also winning the ultimate prize. So you have to give him credit for that. But I want to talk about his lack of success. So I was looking at some scores from 2024, and in 3 games of that year, UVA scored 41 points in the entire game against Virginia Tech. They scored 42 points in the entire game against Tennessee. And in one game, they scored 55 points and were outscored by 25 points.
So these are pretty low scores for a college ball game, right?
Right. So it was not unusual to have a UVA game where UVA would score between 20 to 25 points in the first half, and it was torturous to watch it. I would be texting all my friends saying, this is the worst exhibition of basketball. But I did go online. I did go to Chat GPT and looked up some Reddit comments. So I have one favorite I want to read. And so this is from one fan suffering through a half of basketball, as I did for many years. Forced to watch the UVA offense is an option for a judge to use in sentencing instead of the death penalty.
Oh my God, savage.
Right. And so I would sit during games and I wanted to leave. It was unbearable to watch games that UVA would win. And usually the other team didn't have much more as far as scoring than UVA. And then by, 40 to 50 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes in the game, UVA would squeak it out. And that's the other part about his strategy, is he relied upon what I call variance. So his ability to win or lose was so tight. It was within like a 3 to 5 point window. So if UVA scored 65 to 67 points in a game, they would win the majority of the games.
Wow.
And if they could hold their opponents, and in one year, they did, many years actually, they led the country in defensive scoring. I think their average was holding teams to less than, in the 50-point range, holding teams to that level or lack thereof of scoring during the game. So what happened is that he had these players who were incredibly disciplined. They did not err from his style, but his style was so artistically boring that not only did he bore everybody at JPJ Stadium, but he bored me to tears. And it was quite unbearable to watch. Now, people would always criticize me when I would say that I just hate watching UVA play basketball because they were really interested in the outcome.
Right, yeah.
Because we won. But to me, it was like going to a great museum. And I was talking about this the other day, going to the Louvre and going to see the Mona Lisa. Well-renowned, being one of the greatest paintings in the world. But you walk into a room, nice-sized room, there's a crowd of people standing around the painting, and everybody's looking at it, and I went to see it, and I said, yeah, nice painting, I like it. But it didn't blow my socks off. Whereas many other works of art in that same museum were phenomenal. And I've been to many other museums where I've been overwhelmed with seeing a painting. So maybe Mona Lisa was a little bit built up too much before I saw it, my expectations. But nonetheless, the style was such that he had to get his players to be incredibly disciplined. Now, as far as the flip side of that is he was so disciplined and so stubborn in his vision of how he coached that when he was actually losing, so there are 3 very famous games where he lost to inferior teams. The most consequential one was at the end of the year. At the end of the year, there's a tournament where they take the top 64 teams and then they have a playoff. And so they divide into 4 divisions, 1 versus 16 in 4 different sets. And no one has ever lost a number 1 seed to a number 16 seed. Now,
right, they pit the top team against the lowest ranked team.
Now, it's not the number 16 seed, it's the number 64 seed.
Wow.
Right. So the 64th worst team in the country, he was playing because he was a number 1 seed. And they lost that game. And the reason they lost that game was because after about 10 to 15 minutes, it was apparent that the style he was playing was not working.
Oh.
And I can go into details, but to not to go into too much detail, he would not change.
So how do you beat the slow game? What were they doing that was making Tony Bennett's style ineffective?
Right. So most of the teams that you would play in major college basketball have very talented, athletic, inside players, dribblers, and so on, and outside shooters. This team actually had very quick outside players. They were able to penetrate and make their three-point shot, and that was the reason they didn't change. He didn't have the ability to take his bigger players and force the ball inside. I call it inversion, where he would take his guards and put them inside because their guards were very small and our guards were very big, and he didn't take advantage of that. Another game that was in the NCAA tournament many years ago against Syracuse, they put a press, which is where they throw a lot of people at 1 or 2 players to try to steal the ball on defense. And we ended up, we being UVA, turning the ball over multiple times, and the other team scored 8 points in 30 seconds.
Wow.
Because we turned it over. And the reason we lost was because we were not prepared for the press, and he would not change the players that were on the court at the time. And then to bring it back to more recent times, a couple of years ago, before we won, the game we lost the 1-16 or 1-64. The next year we came back playing the exact same style.
Wow.
And we won the national championship. But we also, the 3 games in the quarter, semi, and the finals, each one of those games was an improbable game. We literally won in the last 5 to 10 seconds on improbable plays that went our way. It's like going to Las Vegas and putting all your money down and spinning the roulette wheel on a number. They were just incredible miracles.
Wow.
So I guess like other leaders, miracles do happen. But the last one I want to say is the year before he left, we were in the NCAAs. And the hero of that game, a gentleman who, very, very sweet guy named Kihei Clark, who we relied upon a little too much, who made one of the greatest plays in UVA history, also made one of the worst plays in UVA history by throwing the ball away and losing to a team named Furman, which most people don't even know where Furman is.
I don't know.
Exactly. So his stubbornness was his greatest asset, but it was also his greatest downfall.
Yeah, it sounds like he had a really singular vision as a leader, and, it served a particular purpose. It really served this purpose of trying to get the most wins or trip people off their game to kind of make his own agenda. But there was a lot of loss there, too.
Well, there was not a lot of loss. He won most of the games because people were not used to playing against his style. But he lost very important games in the tournament.
He lost important games, and he also lost this kind of excitement factor. There was something lost for the viewer, which, that's a question of what are you coaching this team for? What is the point?
Well, it's also entertainment.
Yeah.
But it was entertaining in the sense that the games, as I said earlier about the variance, the games were so close that a couple of plays one way or the other could win or lose a game. So there was usually a lot of tension, which I guess was good for entertainment.
And I know, so Tony Bennett recently made it into the news for how he stepped down from the head coach of UVA. And I know you got some strong opinions on that one as well.
Well, first of all, the college basketball season ends in March and April time frame. And then there's the summer, and then they start again in the fall. And there's a long process in universities or big-time schools trying to recruit and attract a leader or a new coach. And that requires multiple interviews and many months of discussions, and lots of people have input into this. And so the nature of college basketball and college sports has changed recently, and because of that, the coaches have lost the iron-handed or iron-fisted control that they had on how they ran a team. Players now have a lot more autonomy and control. And so it was going to be much more difficult for Tony to recruit. It was also become very mercenary in the sense that players got paid now very large salaries, into the millions of dollars for big-time college players. And so the coaches, like Mike Krzyzewski and Jim Boeheim and others, saw the handwriting on the wall and said, hey, this is not my style of taking and leading young men, and they got out. And so Tony decided to do that. Unfortunately, he did it at the last minute. And by him doing it at the last minute, towards the summer, he did not give the university ample time to find a new leader. And so what he calculated, in my estimation, was that by doing it at the last minute, he forced the university to take as the new leader, the new coach of the team, his head assistant coach, who by all reports is a very nice guy. And certainly he had coached on a lesser Division I college level at East Carolina, but certainly a reasonable person, but maybe not the first selection. And by forcing UVA's hand, by giving them no time, he forced them to take this person who unfortunately did not fare well. He also left the cupboard bare as far as the players that were there.
Wow.
And so here's this iconic, legendary coach who everybody, by all estimation, loves, really valued loyalty over the selection of the possible best coach.
Right. And if you really trust in the talent of the people who are around you, shouldn't you want them to go through the process of actually getting vetted? You know, if he believes in this guy. Right.
Well, there was, I guess, a token vetting, but it really was not, I would say, a full-throated endorsement by the university. And in addition to that, I also, and this is just human nature, I thought he made this decision a long time before he announced it.
Yeah.
So he knew months in advance that he was going to be leaving, but he did not want to put his coaches under this scrutiny. Eventually, everybody left.
Wow.
Because a new coach is in, and everybody has filtered out.
Sports has way more drama than I give it credit for. Maybe I should become a sports fan.
Well, maybe, but there's also a lot of money in it. And there's also a very strong alumni who has a lot to say about how things go at the university.
All right. Are you ready for us to get into a little bit of Jewish content? Get the latke out here?
I have the ketchup.
You've got the ketchup? We've caught up on the ketchup. Let's get latkes on the table. So, I want to talk today about, little-known figure in the Bible, Moses. Have you heard of him?
Once or twice.
Once or twice, yeah. He's somewhat of an important guy. Some people are fans. And I want to give credit where credit is due about what I'm going to kind of present today. One of my teachers in rabbinical school, his name is Rabbi Norm Cohen, wrote this incredible book called Moses and the Journey of Leadership, Timeless Lessons of Effective Management from the Bible and Today's Leaders. And he did a lot of teaching from this book when I was in one of his classes towards the end of my time in rabbinical school. And I feel it's especially apt to be teaching from the rabbinic teachings of Norm Cohen today, because Norm Cohen played on not a basketball league, but a pickup team of all older rabbis in New York City. What I would have given to watch this team play. I think it would have been incredible. But there were a couple of professors at our school who all played.
Well, to go back about 40 years, Congregation Beth Israel also had a interfaith basketball, well, it was an interfaith league where obviously we represented CBI, and we played in what I would call a church league.
Yeah.
And we fared okay. We did all right. And Rabbi Dan also was on the team.
Oh, Rabbi Dan was on the team.
And also we had a green shirt with the letters JJ that stood in our minds for jumping Jews or jamming Jews.
How well did Jews jump? Could Jews jump?
Not that well.
Not that well. Well, maybe we'll bring it back. Maybe you can rag me into it. I'll bring back my skills from my middle school league days. Yeah. I'm not afraid to embarrass myself. So let's get into Moses' leadership style. So Moses, I think, plays a really interesting counterpoint to what we've kind of learned about Tony Bennett, in that Moses' leadership style really comes back to self-doubt. The moment that Moses was called by God to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt, his response to God was, "What are you doing? You've got the wrong guy. I am slow of speech. I am slow of tongue. I can't possibly do this." And God said, "No, you got to do it anyway. I made you. Come on. Who do you think you're talking to?" But I think that Moses' strategy and Moses' choices over time are far more deferential. He usually falls back on somebody else's opinion on what to do. And frequently we witness him come up against the shortcomings of his own style and change. So I want to go through a couple key moments in Moses' journey as a leader to kind of flesh this out. So the first time that we, I think, really see Moses come up against his shortcomings is on the shore of the sea as they're escaping Egypt. You know, he's come to Pharaoh time and time again. His strategy is just repetition, right? He's going to try and convince Pharaoh to let the people go. He's going to say there's going to be a plague. The plague happens. Pharaoh thinks he's going to let the people go and then changes his mind. So finally, we're at the shore of the sea. I think in terms of basketball, this is like a few seconds on the clock, right? So I think really we could say that this is a narrow win on Moses' part as well. But Moses calls out to God, cries up and says, "Come on, how are the people going to be set free?" He promises the people that God's going to deliver them, is going to find a solution. And God's response to Moses is, "What are you doing? You should be taking action here. This isn't my time for action. Lead the people forward, raise up your arm and your staff, and let them go." And that's what Moses does, and he does get the people across the sea. But even in that victory, he really needs to kind of be pushed into his own greatness. Then another key moment that Moses kind of falters and needs to redirect his own strategy is when his father-in-law Jethro witnesses him acting as a judge. So God appoints Moses as a judge. Anytime the people have disputes, they come to Moses. And it describes Moses as holding court with people from morning until night. They're all standing around. Moses is exhausted. The people are exhausted. And Jethro says, "This thing that you're doing is not good. You're going to tire yourself out. You're not going to have time to teach. This isn't the best use of you. You need to teach other people and appoint them as delegates to be judges." And Moses does. He reevaluates his strategy and starts using multiple judges to work through disputes among the people. And he finds this effective. But finally, and I think most interestingly, this is a text that I actually found I think I was looking for a description of Israelite military strategy to try and kind of work alongside, what is Tony Bennett's strategy? What is the strategy of people in the Bible, which unfortunately they never once played basketball. So we can't do a one-to-one comparison. But I did find this text from Exodus 23 verses 27 to 33, which I've given you a copy of, which details God's suggested military strategy for Moses. So I'm going to read through this. "I will send forth my terror before you, and I will throw into panic all the people among whom you come, and I will make your enemies turn tail before you. I will send a plague ahead of you. I will not drive those who are out before you in a single year, lest the land become desolate and the wild beasts multiply to your hurt. I will drive them out little by little until you have increased and possessed the land. I will set your borders from the Sea of Reeds to the Sea of Philistia, from the inhabitants of the Euphrates, for I will deliver your inhabitants of the land into your hands. and you will drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods. They shall not remain in your land, lest they will cause you to sin against me. So, I find some compelling parallels between this strategy and how Tony Bennett plays basketball. So I want to take us into the dip here. What are you seeing there, Sandy?
So as far as the text, it says little by little.
Yeah.
And that's exactly Tony Bennett's strategy of wearing people down.
Right.
Incrementally, drop by drop, drip by drip.
Yeah.
And you have to have a lot of discipline, number one, to play that style. And number two, to play against that style, you have to have a lot of discipline. And most other teams do not have that discipline, and that leads to the success of that strategy.
Right. So on the positive, on the shared strategy of Moses and Tony Bennett, we have playing the long game. They are going to wait it out, even if it takes 40 years of wandering through the desert.
Or 40 minutes.
Or 40 minutes of not traveling, because that would be illegal. I know some things about basketball, of wandering around the court with the basketball, keeping people from shooting. They're going to do it. They're going to make it happen. They're going to secure a victory. But I bet if there was an audience for this, they would have been bored to tears. Nobody's going to want to watch this battle. And I also think that there's a critical piece in,
But the mission was to win the war.
The mission was to win the war.
The mission is to win the basketball game.
Yes.
The mission is not to look good.
No.
And not to satisfy Sandy.
Not to satisfy Sandy. Clearly, Tony's mission wasn't to satisfy Sandy. I don't think he asked you once what your opinion of his coaching style was.
I was more than willing to give a halftime speech, but no, he did not.
You would have had his back. You would have been there. Come on, Tony. You got resources in the community. But I also want to say, so in God's strategic suggestion to Moses, he also says, don't listen to the people that are around you. Don't start worshiping their gods. You have to singularly worship me. And I think this is kind of similar to Tony's strategy of, this is the game we play. We're going to go up against teams that play a different kind of game than us. We're sticking to our guns, and we're going to play this game.
And as far as the basketball side, was that he not always had the best talent.
Yeah.
He had good to very good players most of the time, although the championship year he had at least 3 guys that made the NBA. But he relied upon very good college basketball players to beat great college basketball players because of the style.
Right. And I guess amongst their ranks, they had to trust that they had people who were going to wait it out, who were going to be patient, who were going to be disciplined to the style of the team.
Yes, but that also relies upon his vision.
Right.
His vision was such that he knew that for whatever reason, either he didn't like it or didn't want to or could not get the great players.
Yeah.
And therefore, he saw the strategy that would work was to utilize the talent he had to their utmost ability.
Right. And I think this issue of vision also really draws a stark parallel between Moses and Tony Bennett, because Tony Bennett was so reliant on vision. He had his own vision, but Moses was really open to the opinions of others and somewhat reliant on the opinions of others. So when it came time for Moses to step down, he heard from God that he was supposed to have Joshua as his successor. God told him his time was coming. God also told him that he wasn't going to make it to the promised land. He was not going to be with them forever. So Moses also played a long game in terms of his transition. He announced it much earlier that Joshua was going to be his successor. He started serving Joshua before he fully stepped down, and it created a smoother transition for the people of Israel.
So transitions in college sports, I'm sure in other fields, is very difficult, especially when you're following a legend. Almost every major college football or basketball team that has a legendary coach, the next coach cannot win. It's just impossible to follow Moses.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is the thing we talk about in the rabbinate as well. Sometimes there are these rabbis who are really icons at what they do. They do the rabbinate really differently. And if you follow them up in your that community, it does not matter what skill you have. You're not that rabbi. It's not the same.
And ultimately, the person who succeeded him did not succeed.
Right.
But which is common.
Yeah. But so Tony Bennett, did he step down just this last year, right?
2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago. And so is the coach that replaced him still coaching the team?
No, he was let go after 1 year, and they went through a recruiting process, and they have a new coach.
Yeah. What are you thinking about the new coach?
Actually, it's very cyclical because you remember I spoke about the team that beat him.
Right, yeah.
When he was number 1 and they were number 64, was that coach.
Oh, my gosh.
There were a couple of stops in between, but plays a completely different style.
That is wild. And so how's UVA faring under this new leadership?
We have not seen a team yet.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so...
And they're all, unfortunately, I'd say if there's 12 or 14 players on a team, it varies, but almost every single person left except 2.
Wow.
So we have a whole new set of players.
Well, really exciting season ahead of us, it would seem. Yeah. And just to be clear, I want to reiterate what Sandy said at the top of our show. Nothing but love and respect to Tony Bennett. If you ever want to come to Shabbat services at CBI, Tony Bennett, we will welcome you with open arms.
He will be my guest.
Yes, Sandy's guest specifically. Sandy will reserve a spot for you. We'll make sure you get the best piece of challah, the oneg, in honor of you being a good sport during our podcast, roasting you a little bit.
Well, I hope Tony Bennett does not hear this podcast.
Well, much like the next UVA season, only time will tell. But, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the most critical question of our podcast. Sandy, what do you like to put on your latkes?
Applesauce.
Applesauce. Okay, why is it applesauce over sour cream?
Sour cream is a little too bland.
A little too bland, yeah.
I mean, a little bit of sweet with the fried foods.
It's a winner. It's a winning combination. All right, I'll put you down in our records as strongly team applesauce, team lovingly anti-Tony Bennett.
No, I'm pro-Tony Bennett.
Pro-Tony Bennett.
I'm anti-style.
Anti-style, but above all things, pro-UVA.
Pro-UVA, and they won the national championship. That's a rare feat.
It's true. It's true. WAHOOWA.
WAHOOWA.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Latkes in Ketchup. I'm Rabbi Ezra Leventhal, and I'm going to dip.